Welcome back, boys!
Yeah. First one back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
First one back.
2024.
Wow, 2024.
Yeah.
Christmas, summer.
Yeah.
Haven't seen us for a
January,
while.
yeah.
We've caught up, but we haven't done a podcast
No.
catch up for a while. December 18 was our last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, been a couple of months, so
Yeah.
nice to have the summer off and spend it with family and
Yeah.
kids on school
Yeah.
holidays and stuff.
And before we go on, actually, I should a little shout out to my mate Dutchy, who listens to our podcast.
Ah, good on you, Dutch.
And he told me at Christmas Eve, he always hosts a Christmas Eve party every Christmas. Puts on meat, puts on a great spread, he and his wife Sam. And he said, oh, yeah, listen to the podcast, and he listened to our conspiracy theories one.
Ooh.
And he goes, I still just can't get over the fact that I'm listening to Steve-O on the radio or whatever.
You're Steve-O?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or Rooster.
Or Rooster.
Rooster?
Yeah.
He doesn't know me as Rooster, different group of friends. Yeah.
Steve-O, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, shout out Dutchy, thanks for listening, mate.
Good on you, Dutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm Rooster.
Yeah, Chris. CJ.
Stevie.
Yeah, because we were going to introduce ourselves from last year,
Yeah.
and we
It's a bit of a gag at the start, isn't it? But
yeah,
Cheesy.
I
Yeah,
suppose
cheesy.
we should introduce ourselves because some people still listen to us and don't know who's talking.
yeah, we need to get a bit more professional, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, or do we?
Yeah,
What do we?
and some people have asked about our sound quality as well, hey, about our episodes, and
Yep.
I guess we
Yeah.
should explain that. We've just gone independent.
We don't use the studio anymore.
Mm.
That was costing us a little bit of money.
Artistic differences.
Yeah, and we wanted to make it low cost to consumer, keep it free.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want any sponsors,
Yeah.
or do we?
Well,
Yeah.
they won't dictate what we say.
Well, that's
you know,
right.
like Del Bigtree on the high wire. They
Yeah.
don't have no sponsors.
No.
Alright.
He doesn't want to be dictated what he reports on and what he says.
Yeah, so we want to make it low cost to the consumer. Everyone can get this information for free.
Yeah.
So one way to do it is just sit around and talk. So the quality of the sound's probably dropped a little bit. We're using a little voice recorder at our houses these days, but
Quality of the sound might have deteriorated a bit, but the quality of the information and the messages definitely hasn't.
right on, brother, right on.
So
Yeah.
what have we been talking about?
There's a
What's-
lot been going on in the world in the
yeah,
last
last
couple of
2
months.
months.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit. There's so much shit going on in the world all the time.
What a fascinating time to be alive.
It is, hey?
And this year's going to be a cracker.
Yeah.
2024 is going to be just...
I reckon 2024 is going to be an awakening year for many people. I reckon
Yeah,
a
I
lot
hope
of
so.
shit is going to start coming to the fore, and people are going to go, "Fuck."
We got US elections in November coming up.
Yeah.
That's going to be massive.
Yeah.
Oh, we're hoping our boy
And a lead up to
gets
it.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, he's
that
not looking too
whole-
bad, is he? I saw a poll the other day that RFK put up on, I think it was Twitter, and it's basically 33% apiece for the three candidates in terms of preferred president. So Biden,
Wait.
33, Trump, 33, RFK, 34.
He's
Really?
got a major uphill battle
Oh, yeah.
because on
Who's
some of the election,
RFK?
yeah, he was saying the other day on some of the ballots, it's only a two-party system,
Yeah.
so his name doesn't even get on there.
So he's got to go to each state, doesn't he, and try and get his name.
Yeah,
Wow.
And they've got to get a
Just-
certain amount of signatories in each state and people to knock on doors and all sorts of...
I guess the whole freedom movement it's gathering momentum in the US, and he's got a lot to do with that. It's going to be intriguing.
Yeah.
I really hope he gets in.
I really do. Hey, he's such an intelligent guy, and
Yeah.
he's just got so many good ideas to
And that-
change the face of America. And you know, as much as we run our own culture here and our own government and politics here in Australia, a lot is influenced by the US.
Oh, yeah.
Reserve currency, all of that kind of stuff is based on the US. You know,
For now.
for now, yeah. I mean, it's changed in the past. It used to be the sterling, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then that fell in a heap. To
Yep.
1913 or something.
Yep.
So I mean, there is cycles. Things come and go.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But Trump's been endorsed by DeSantis now, and what's his name, Ramaswamy. And I think Nikki Haley is still sort of having a crack, but I don't think she's got much of a chance. She might have in some states, but
Yeah.
Well, if-
not across the nation, you wouldn't think, would you?
if they slam through some of the indictments of the on him, he could end up in prison.
yeah. Yeah, but a lot of it's
Yeah.
all bullshit, man. A lot of it's all like Have you heard
You
about?
say that, say that, but some of the, what's his name? Tony, his former lawyer, that is now not on there because he thinks that the head counsel, I think he's called, who's not really even a lawyer or a barrister, is kind of calling the shots. He wasn't getting enough influence on it, so he left, and he's kind of saying, well, he could, if he doesn't get the right advice, go to jail.
But as soon as if he wins,
10 years.
if he wins, because obviously he's not going to be going to jail in the next 8 months, because obviously the court proceedings are going to take a long time.
But they do say that the Democrats, if they want to push that through, they could. And he was saying, this former lawyer, Trump's former lawyer, was saying that if it does get through, to go before the election comes up, it's just a major injustice. And the only reason why they're doing it is so that he can't win.
They're just trying to sink him, basically.
And how corrupt are they that they're making all the court appearances or whatever, or the court injunctions or whatever they call them, in democratic states. So, or in New York, New York
some
State.
stacked judge or jury or whatever who's
Exactly.
just
Anti-Republican, pretty much.
Whatever you think of Trump, that is not right. It's not
No,
right.
it's not.
Talk about weaponising your legal system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a third world country, mate.
Tying up
That's what
his
they do in
time and his resources and his mental
kangaroo
capacity
court
and,
to just
yeah.
Shanghai him and
Shanghai
get
your
him out.
opposition so they can't get in.
Yeah.
So could he pardon himself if he became...
Yes.
Well,
he could.
Yeah.
The problem.
Himself, that's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, so he could have done that.
Sure, I murdered a few people at that.
What they were saying is he could have done that before he left last time.
Wow, and he didn't.
He didn't because that's an admission of guilt, essentially.
Right.
So if he pardons himself, he's got to have admitted to doing something wrong.
Yeah.
To say,
he has
yep.
to own up to it to pardon himself.
Yep, I'm guilty, but I'm giving myself a
Yeah.
presidential pardon.
Wow.
So he didn't because he's like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So, the whole electoral fraud thing, he genuinely believed, probably didn't get the right people to look into it first, but yeah, he genuinely believed it.
Well, and I just heard something in the news, and I didn't look right into it, but it was about that election, the 2020 election. It's come about that if there wasn't interference in it, that they just said it might have been a different result. So they're sort of indicating that there was interference in that election, and it would have led to a different result. They didn't want to say, Trumpy would have won, but they're just now admitting that a different result could have occurred because of what happened during that election.
Or it might not have been enough to turn the election, but something was going on.
So that's the mail votes they got? Like
all the donkey votes and
mail-in
all
donkey
that.
votes where people were just sending in thousands of...
Yeah.
Oh, and they were talking about anecdotal evidence of people putting through votes several times.
Well, there's video evidence.
Readers,
There's video evidence of people going to post office. They're called mules,
Yep.
and they're stacking in the post office box like parcels full of votes.
10,000 votes or whatever.
Dead people even. Dead people got votes. So, I don't know. But here's the latest thing about Biden, how he got caught again with secret documents, classified documents in his garage in a tattered old box in the corner. And they aren't going to charge him because they deem him too senile. No shit. He's too intellectually impaired or whatever to be
You've
charged.
got the keys to the nukes, but...
Exactly right. So they're not going to charge him because of this reason, but he can still be president.
Are the Democrats putting someone else up?
That's
or are
the
they putting
most
him up?
fascinating thing that I see is like, what's the cut-off where they're like, all right, we're all in on Team Joe, or we've had a good run, mate, but...
Well, mate, I heard somewhere that deadline was in end of January.
Wow.
To really
So it's a joke.
successfully and more easily replace him. So it looks to me, it looks at the moment, that he's still going to be the lead, unless they change it.
And could they replace him by force, or does he have to agree to it?
I think he has to agree to it.
So he'd have to say, like, I will step down for the party. So he could say, I'm running.
He's probably not cognitively impaired. He's probably not up to it.
I just think whatever happens, because that Democratic Party has been infiltrated by the cabal. I reckon however you want to put it.
They've lost their way, haven't they?
They've been infiltrated.
It's not the Democratic Party of the 60s with
No.
the Kennedys.
No.
You know.
So Biden's not running the country, or the Democratic Party aren't running the country.
There's no way he's doing it.
No.
Come on now. He's not even close
But
to
that
it.
party has been infiltrated, and that
But-
party needs to be gone.
But don't you think they talk about this uni party that's not left, not right, but they're just in the middle and they're controlling everything.
Yeah, it
doesn't matter
who gets in. They've got their tentacles in both the parties.
So,
and they're
Yeah, right.
Which they even talk about that happening to Trump in that, he talks drain the swamp. He talked about draining the swamp, and he didn't drain the swamp at all.
Well, the reason they reckon that was because it's his first time in, and he trusted people and put people in positions that he thought were going to assist him, and they didn't.
Well, all those,
which is probably the people from that uni party, if that's a fact.
That's well. You look at
Now you think if he gets in,
Fauci stayed in,
yeah.
and sort of 4 days before he had a lockdown, Trump's like, no, never having a lockdown. 4 days later, he's trusting Fauci, who had no evidence of lockdowns, to have a lockdown. And he kind of went back on that, and he didn't drain the swamp. He kept Fauci, he kept all these other guys.
Yeah.
Do you remember early in Trump's presidency, he decided that he was going to do a look at vaccine safety?
Yeah,
he was going to actually task Bobby Kennedy with presenting a brief to him on childhood, or broader vaccine safety. And then somewhere along the line, that got kiboshed and it got sort of like kicked down the road. So maybe, again, there's been some influential forces in there that have pushed him away from.
Well, I mean, even you look at hydroxychloroquine, he came out and said that's the way to go. I think he said something about drinking bleach. Which,
oh no, that was taken out of context.
But that's what that was referring to, right?
There was some other reference to bleach. Like bleach could kill a virus, and then they spun it in a way that he was saying if you consume bleach, it will kill the virus.
But there is.
He's talking about putting bleach on surfaces.
It's like people use hydrogen peroxide in certain concentrations, and they use it as a nasal spray and an oral spray.
Food grade.
And it's exactly right, and it's a legitimate use because your body makes hydrogen peroxide intracellularly to kill viruses.
Which
is bleach.
Kind of got taken out of context.
So you will bleach your hair if you put peroxide in your hair. You'll come out.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of months, I've been reading RFK's book, The Real Anthony Fauci.
It's tough.
It's a tough read, but I'm just persisting with it, and it is so incredible.
It's well referenced, isn't it? I haven't read it, but I've heard it's like immaculately referenced. Like he doesn't make any statements where he just shoots from the hip. It's all like, well, this is what I'm saying, and going.
Where there's any statement that could be deemed as an accusation or whatever, there's a little number next to it.
Yep.
And after each chapter, there are 3 pages, and the writing's pretty small of
Yeah.
all these references that you can go to explore it yourself.
Like a PhD.
Yeah, and as like Rogan mentions and all these other guests mention, he hasn't been sued yet for this book.
No.
So surely there's got to be an account of truth in there somewhere.
Well, the Fauci trials have been going on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just been swept under the carpet.
Yeah. Well,
you don't hear
He
about
had
it,
no evidence of lockdowns. He had no safety data on the vaccine. He had no evidence on masks.
And the 6 foot social distancing thing.
That was the other one?
He just said that was just a.
I am science.
That was just a topic that came up. It just
felt right.
Felt right. Yeah. No scientific basis whatsoever.
Science.
The lab leak.
Just the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that all that stuff's come out that he said it. Even Fauci himself, I think, said it was a lab leak, right? In those trials he's going through. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the lab leak now is founded. That's a fact.
Yeah. It seems like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I would recommend anyone reading that Real Anthony Fauci book to really wake up about how the system and the medical or the pharmaceutical system is really so infiltrated.
It's very corrupt, isn't it? I was
it
really
is.
interested to read the scientists, I haven't read his book, to hear the scientists that work at the NIH that were involved in the vaccine development can claim royalties.
Yeah, right.
Is that right?
So if you're a scientist already paid by the government, you're working for the government doing your job, but you collaborate on the development of the vaccine that then gets rolled out, you get
that's
the
right.
cut.
Yeah, you do. And it's mentioned in the book. That's
So
mentioned
how
in the book.
do you do good science
Wow.
knowing that, like, well, if this does get released and they pretty much jab every single person on the face of the earth, I'm probably going to be a minted man, me and my family, for the rest of my days.
Yeah.
Are you going to do the best science possible, or are you maybe going to take a few
All
shortcuts?
you do, and you sweep it under the rug.
And if you are
maybe you
against,
change a few decimal points, or
if
maybe
you are against that strain of thought, you are
Yeah.
ostracised, demonised, and defunded.
you never work.
And you pretty much your scientific career is kibosh.
Suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll just never give you another grant
Yeah.
because scientists work on grants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if no one's giving you a grant to do studies, then
Yeah.
you're not a scientist anymore.
But even as a professional, you're defamed. Like, and he's been
Yeah.
found responsible for a lot of that.
Interesting. There's a lot of citizen science going on. Science that's funded by
Yep.
the people
Yep.
into projects that they like, they want to see. That's a good thing, right? And
Yep.
Well, we're talking about the US election, but we've got our election coming up this year too in November, haven't we? Or October? Have we got a federal election this year? 2024? We do.
state election.
No, we've got a federal election.
States next
I'm
year.
going to do Jamie and look that up.
Yeah,
Oh,
look it up.
You on the internet?
I'm sure we've got a federal election this year.
Seems too soon. Isn't it crazy that we all know more about the...
It is the US state of politics.
It's just so hard
because it's fascinating.
it's
I
fascinating
think.
and it does really control the fate of the whole Western world in a way because they're sort of
Yeah.
what the leaders of...
But our Labor Albanese government are so left wing. They have crippled the energy markets with this renewables shit that.
their last election was 2022,
Yeah.
so we'll be back in 2026.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, where did
We got a state election.
Sorry, the next Australian federal election will be held on or before, the 27th of September 2025, September next year.
Right. Okay. All right.
So we got we got some big stuff this year. So we got, like you said, we got the US election. We've also got that pandemic treaty. I don't know if you guys want to talk about it today, but that's sitting in the background before the
May,
US.
May that comes to a conclusion.
That's huge. I don't think people realise how potentially wide-reaching and dangerous that could be if it gets.
Yeah. That will open the gates to everything, mate. That will open the gates to CBDCs.
Surveillance,
Yeah.
censorship,
Yeah.
digital identities, vaccine
passports. Yeah.
It's pretty terrifying.
Well, it's loss of country sovereignty, really,
Ooh.
isn't it? You are.
Yeah, it's essentially the Chinese are talking about it in terms of this is the new global governance
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. And did you see that? What's his name? The World Health Organization. Tedros Barrier or whatever.
Look into his background.
Yeah. But he was talking about how there's so much misinformation about this pandemic treaty at the recent Davos summit.
Except you can go online and read it
Yeah.
and actually see that it is all real.
Yeah. It's basically they will surpass our government
Yes.
in regards to announcing a pandemic,
Yep.
whether that be a climate change pandemic, a viral pandemic, or whatever, and then implement their restraints on society, and that our government won't have a say in it.
No.
That's fucked up.
That is crazy.
Mate, I've been signing petitions from government representatives on against
It's
that.
exhausting. It's
Yeah. I think there is a message now, and for that Tedros guy to get up in front of the Davos thing and do a presentation about misinformation surrounding it, and we're not here to be a global government or anything. He's obviously saying what they're doing, but they're now getting fearful that there's traction against it.
I heard someone referencing through the document, they use the word shall 175 times. In legal speech, shall. S-H-A-L-L.
Oh, yeah.
Shall essentially means it is mandatory. It's not like you should do. It's not should.
It will.
Shall.
That I thought must.
Apparently, shall is quite a strong legal word.
Right.
So apparently, it's peppered all through the. It's not like you should do this or you could do this. It's like you shall. So you will
You
essentially.
use that terminology in workplace law too.
Yeah. Yep.
Must means you've got to do it.
Yeah.
Shall means. Yeah. Anyway, might be.
Yeah, maybe it's open to interpretation.
Should.
May's that's used a lot in employment things as well. Like the employee may do this.
Yeah.
And a lot of
See,
employees.
may to me
May
implies
means
choice.
Yeah.
You may do this, you may not do this.
Yeah.
To me, shall is like, you shall take your shoes off.
Yeah.
Oh, I better take my shoes off. I shall.
Yeah.
It's not like it's an
I guess
option.
shell's an old historical
Yeah,
word
Yeah,
for
it's
will.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you might
sure
be
it's
right,
got,
Shakespearean sort of
Yeah.
thou shall.
Yeah. Biblical.
Yeah.
Thou shall not.
Mm.
I mean, if you hear thou shall not,
Yeah, that
Kill.
means you will not kill.
you don't listen to, they're 50-50 on it, It's like, well, you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Without shall.
But yeah, they've got, I mean, they got the surveillance part of that treaty that they're talking about, so health surveillance, which really gets into social media surveillance, gets into like censorship.
Yeah.
So like they're essentially going to control, I think they call it infodemics or something like that. So information around pandemics, and so they'll essentially choose what is true speak and what is not.
Yeah.
And then they'll, strike down. I think they use the word combat. They'll combat misinformation, disinformation, and what's the third one? There's like another one now. Malinformation or something like that. They're going to combat that, which apparently is a very strong legal word.
And at that Davos summit, their theme for the event was regaining trust. So that was their overarching theme. But they also mentioned in there that the greatest threat to humanity in this period of time is misinformation.
Wow!
Can you believe that?
So it's not war, terrorism.
Well, it's not obesity or heart disease or fucking anything like that, or the neurological conditions people are suffering. It's misinformation.
It's not getting the information that we want to the people.
Yeah. What a fucking load of shit.
Yeah.
Have you
That
ever
just does my
seen
head.
in the UK now, there's some new law that's been passed that can put you in jail for misinformation?
Yeah.
How wild is that?
Yeah.
Well, who decides what the truth is?
Yeah, that's right.
It's like if you're in the middle of an early pandemic, COVID, fucking COVID-25 just comes out or whatever, and someone says, oh, I think XYZ drug might work, and you start talking about that, and they decide, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You're going to jail. You want to just influence some people to.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's like the old days. If you said someone was a witch, you just burn them.
Yeah.
It's like, where are they going to draw the line? Like, flat earthers, jail.
Yeah, you're in jail.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's obviously going to be politically motivated, like who they choose to. Who they choose to go after, but it's pretty crazy to me that now speech is not. There's no free speech anymore. There's a limit on free speech.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we were kids, you were told that sticks and stones can break your bones and names will never hurt you. But now it seems that words and names and what it references are more dangerous than anything, which is bullshit.
The state will decide what is true, and you will believe it.
Well, hasn't Australia already developed a misinformation department or something that oversees what's considered misinformation or disinformation, or what's truth? A truth department. That just sounds Orwellian, doesn't it?
Yes, I've heard of this. Yeah, there's like a truth minister or something.
Truth minister.
Or something like that.
It's a Sheila. And I don't know what her credentials are, but this woman is the truth minister.
Oh my goodness.
How the fuck do you get...
That sounds so untrue.
Oh man.
But I'm thinking a person given the position of truth minister must be like a spiritual leader who... like Yoda, oversees wisdom and all this sort of stuff. Lives on a mountain somewhere and speaks to gods. But she's just some slapper from the eastern suburbs of fucking New South Wales or something. Who knows? Anyway, interesting times. What about this whole Israel-Gaza thing that's been going on? During the time that we last met, we had a ceasefire so that hostages could be given back to Israel, and then the ceasefire ended when Israel went and bombed Gaza. So now that shit's all back on. I don't know how much of it is a distraction. I don't know how much the US is involved with funding Hamas. But going on to the funding of Hamas, right? Have you been around this Labor Party? So basically since the 1950s, right, the Australian government has been donating taxpayer funds to UNRWA. So UNRWA, it's a pretty hard acronym to say, UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Works Agency. It's specifically for...
Relief and Works Agency, did you say?
Yep. Specifically for Palestinian refugees. Our government has been funding that UNRWA for many years, and it's now just been found, and the Australian government is being investigated for its continual financial support of UNRWA. But now UNRWA has been linked to Hamas, the terrorist organisation. So basically, UNRWA is employing Hamas members. So a lot of our money is going to fund this UNRWA. UNRWA is then funneling that money to Hamas. Their UNRWA schools have been found storing Hamas weapons. UNRWA facilities are being used as staging grounds against Israel, and just recently they discovered Hamas tunnels under the headquarters of UNRWA. So people are now screaming out for Penny Wong, who's our, what is she, our international foreign affairs minister, she's been overseeing the billions of dollars, right? So Australian taxpayers in 2023-24 will provide approximately $32 million to occupied Palestinian territories via UNRWA. So $32 million of our taxpayer money is funding this UNRWA group, which is then underhandedly funding Hamas, which is then bombing Israel. So indirectly, our Australian government is an anti-Israel government, isn't it? Could you see it in that? Could you see
I can
it in
see
that
what
way?
you're saying, but if you look at what the government policy is, they would be pro-Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then are they? Because then you look at, did you see those Sydney Opera House protests where all those Palestinian flags and Indigenous flags, and they're all saying they're the suppressed from colonisers and all this sort of thing? They're letting off fireworks, and which is illegal anyway in a public space. And the coppers there, which are an arm of the government, stood there and did nothing. They investigated it.
Imagine that being anti-vaxxers. They've got the rubber bullets out.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a there's a two-tiered policing system in our country.
Yeah.
So if you go and protest vaccines or mandates or whatever, you're going to get rubber bulleted and sprayed in the face with mace spray or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you let fireworks go against and cry out, burn the Jews, no less, and that has become an issue as well, because the New South Wales Police Commissioner has investigated this whole incident and has deemed that no, the crowd weren't saying burn the Jews, they were saying where's the Jews. Can you believe that? So you can see video footage.
Is
this a bit
that
like
terminology?
Let's Go Brandon or whatever that thing was from that?
Yeah. Well, they're just making an excuse for their inactivity in stopping that protest from happening. Where's the Jews? But you can see people yelling with anger in their face, burn the Jews.
Well, that's a catch cry that's been used around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad, man. And then there are Jewish families and businesses now relocating out of some suburbs in New South Wales and Victoria.
Yeah, I've also got a lot of sympathy for the Palestinians.
Yeah, look, mate,
there's 20. I'm looking at the stats now. 28,000 Palestinians now have been killed as of the 11th of Feb.
Yeah,
could you? A very vast majority of that is women and
it's
children.
Unfortunate. But are they a collateral damage from this Hamas action towards Israel, and then Israel's reaction
definitely
to
not pro terrorism? But if you're a normal, definitely not pro terrorism. But if you're a normal Palestinian living in Gaza,
trying to live your life,
well, where do you go? So you've got Egypt to the south; they're not going to let you into their border.
No.
Then to the east, you've got Israel. Clearly, you're not going to go into Israel as a Palestinian. And then you've got the ocean.
Yeah.
They're trapped. They can't go anywhere.
So as a Palestinian citizen,
they can't go to the airport and fly out. They're very extremely impoverished, poor people, and the Israelis are absolutely levelling their whole everything, all their infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's they're bombing apartment buildings. I mean, what would you do as a Palestinian? Like,
look, I get that, mate. And
I can't fathom it.
It's a deep-rooted fucking historical story.
Like, it's such a dirty battle. Like, I understand that they went across the border, the Palestinian militants or terrorists or Hamas or whatever, and they killed, I think it was 12 or 1,400 Israelis. But I feel like the response has been overwhelmingly damaging to normal people.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I feel like in the 21st century they could do it cleaner.
Well, as a Palestinian citizen, then, are you hoping then that you're not governed by Hamas? Because isn't there a fact?
I think it becomes blurry, doesn't it? Like if you live in an apartment building where Israeli intelligence says, "Oh, there's probably a thing in there," and they bomb that building and it kills all your kids or whatever, your family, what are you going to do? I'd have some grievances.
Oh, for sure, mate. Yeah,
and probably most people would.
Yeah,
there is no safe part of Gaza.
But then, so
I do feel sorry for them.
Yeah, but then flip it on the other hand. So how does Israel reduce Hamas's influence without damaging citizens or impacting citizens?
I think what they want is a two-state solution where they can have their own land and govern themselves.
Who?
The Palestinians or Hamas. They don't have a state, really.
No, but Hamas is not a government though, isn't it? It's a terrorist organisation.
Well, I think it's both their political leadership and that they have a terrorist arm as well. I'm not saying they're not terrorists.
Because
but-
they're like Al Qaeda.
Yeah, I guess so.
And what's the other one? Mossad or what's it? There's another one.
No, that's the
So it's the
Israel.
Israeli intelligence agency.
Oh, is it? No, what's the
Yeah.
other one in? Is it Lebanon or something, or Libya or something? There's another terrorist group. Hezbollah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel sorry for them. There's so many innocents getting killed.
Oh, mate,
Yeah.
you don't want innocent people getting killed.
I just don't think the answer is to completely level the whole
No.
community of people.
Yeah.
I feel incredibly sorry for them.
Yeah. There's got to be some, like Ukraine and Russia. There's got to be some diplomatic solution to it, and that's
Well,
the
how's
whole
that-
Truly
frustrating
David
thing.
and Goliath. You've got one thing that's got like, one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world, jets, tanks, whatever. Then you've got these people that are digging tunnels and maybe they've got rifles and that's about it. Like
Yeah.
it's
There's
not like
no-
the US going to war with, even like Iraq or something, back in the day where they had a conventional battle. This is very much
Mm.
like,
But where does the US sit on this, mate? So the US, pretty much Israel is like another state of the US. But the US has also had, like, just months before that October 7 attack on Israel, the US gave $60 billion or something to Iran. Iran are known to fund Hamas and terrorist organisations. So what the fuck is America doing? Like, are America creating a conflict by funding both?
Probably.
So
Well, why they got so many fingers in
So
so many
pies.
pies? America is in everything.
they are.
They're funding the
They're
Ukraine.
making money.
They're doing like. Why is there never any talk of peace?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it always let's
Forever wars.
fund? Absolutely,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
want the wars to carry
Because
on.
I guess it's a money maker, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's a big money maker
Yeah.
for the military
this has been a
industrial
good
complex.
distraction away from the public's sort of obsession with Ukraine, which
Yeah.
ain't going so well.
Yeah,
No, that's right.
I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but that interview with Putin and Tucker
yeah, it's
How good was that?
was quite fascinating.
Yeah.
But it seems like I don't watch conventional media now because I hate it. It's just depressing. It's not on. We don't watch normal TV
No,
nowadays
it's
at all.
It's all corporate.
So I don't know how much coverage it's getting, but it seems like Ukraine has kind of gone off the boil a bit on the nose maybe because they're not really doing so great
Yeah.
lot over there. The Russians seem to be going from strength to strength.
Yeah.
So
Some-
maybe this is a convenient distraction.
yeah.
Palestine, Israel, maybe that'll take the heat off for a bit because we've got the elections coming up and we have spent, what have they spent over in the Ukraine? Like $100 billion or
Something
$1 trillion?
ridiculous.
Some crazy amount of money.
But then you've
I
also
think they lost $6 billion or something. They didn't know where it had gone or something.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm talking about the United
Yeah.
States. Like
Yeah.
There's an extra zero that they gave. Like there was an error.
Yeah.
You're supposed to give them 6
Rounding
billion.
error.
They gave them
Yeah.
60 billion.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, and you say how much is a distraction when then you've got American politicians saying it's time to hit Iran. Let's get Iran. It's time to obliterate Iran. So is this like another excuse to create another Middle East conflict? Because Americans, some politicians there want to start a war with Iran.
What did they do?
Fuck knows. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
They'll end up sending young Americans over there to die, and Iran have nuclear capabilities as well, so
Yeah.
they're probably more volatile than
As do
Russia.
Israel.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's a volatile part of the world.
it is. But like we talk about no leaders standing up for a
What about peace? What
a
about
diplomatic
like,
peace
let's
solution,
come
right?
in and let's go. Well,
It takes a media, a journalist like Tucker Carlson to go and speak to a major political
Yeah.
head that no one else has even bothered to talk to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
was-
if anything, at least that interview would have given the main punters out there a little insight into the man of Putin, and he gave a fucking pretty in-depth
There's a
history lesson on
detailed
Russia.
history lesson.
Yeah, that was quite lengthy.
Detail.
Right to
Oh,
back in the
man.
day. Yeah.
But good on him for doing that, because
Yeah.
not many people.
No.
I've been to Russia, and Russia is a very, very unique place. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
right.
the Russian people are very, very unique. They're
Yeah.
hard nuts to crack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but once you crack them, they are the most loyal and
Yeah.
friendly people. But I can say I've been to America too, and Americans are very friendly as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people are fundamentally good, aren't they?
Yeah, but not many Americans or Westerners would know much about Russia.
No.
No, because they've always been the enemy.
Yeah,
Always.
Yeah.
yeah,
That interview was hard to get through.
it was.
The first 45 minutes, the history lesson was And that stupid voice.
That
Yeah,
voice,
well,
That voice is very
the
annoying.
translator, he
I
was
wish
so
Putin
monotone.
had spoken English. I understand he's in his own country, he's going to speak his native tongue, but it would have been a lot easier for us.
Does he speak English?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, well, why didn't he just? Was it a pride thing, or like,
I mean, I guess he's thinking, I'm in the Kremlin, I'm in Russia, I'm speaking my native language.
Because
Because it'd be like if you're in Parliament House
Well,
in
I guess if
Australia,
he's-
some Chinese guy comes over, you're like, I'm going to speak Australian.
But
mate."
he's obviously speaking to his Russian people as well, so not many
Yes.
of them would know English. So
Yeah, exactly.
he's,
Oh,
giving
I
it-
see what
he's
you're
delivering a
saying,
message to his own
yeah.
people.
He's speaking to the whole world, he's not just speaking to us.
And I think the reason, because you mentioned Tucker having a frown on all the time.
He kind of always has that look, doesn't
I
he?
know, but he
Tense
was.
sort of-
I got the feeling he was just concentrating so hard
Yeah.
on trying to get the translation.
So he would have had a thing
Yeah,
in his ear,
but he
I
was
guess, so
like-
he's trying to.
He's like staring him down.
Tough gig.
Yeah, and
Oh,
then,
yeah,
he,
in
then
real
he
time.
chuckled a bit, and he got,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it was.
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
And good on Tucker. He's copped some flack for doing it as well. Like,
Oh, tons.
like people are saying they should jail him for being a traitor and treason and this sort of stuff.
I'll
Like,
tell you what, he's walking a tight path. Have you guys seen any of the little extra snippets he's done in the following few days while he's been in Russia? He did one where he went to a supermarket. Have you seen that?
no.
He goes to a Russian supermarket. He's got a trolley, and he goes into like a department store, and he says, back in the day, we were told that Russians had a very austere, shopping, food experience, whatever, and because of sanctions and all this sort of jazz. He goes, look it up, it's true. He goes, but today, let's go into a Russian supermarket and see what it's like. And he walks in, and it looks exactly like the supermarket. He walks through a mall, there's all shops everywhere, walks into a big supermarket, neon signs, food as far as the eye can see, all sorts of Western food, Snickers, Mars, all your normal things. And he does this giant shop. He does a whole grocery cart full of shopping, everything you can imagine, wine, whatever. Goes to the checkout and he's like, how much would this cost in America? He's got his crew with him, like all the film crew and everything. So we think in America this would cost $400. They put it through, get the amount in rubles, do the calculations, $100.
Wow.
He's like, this is wild, like,
Yeah.
they're not so corrupt over here.
Yeah.
He really goes on about, what words does he use? This makes me violently radicalised or something like that, he says.
Yeah, right.
He's like, this is not good enough. And I was watching it this morning with my wife. We were watching it, having a bit of a chuckle. It's like a 3-minute clip. It's reasonably interesting to watch. And I thought, you should be careful. Like, it's quite insightful,
Inflammatory.
inflammatory,
Yeah.
inciting words that he uses.
Towards America.
Yeah.
Against America. Yeah.
This is, he says something like, this is rapidly radicalising me or something like that.
But mate, it takes a voice like that to wake people to fuck up.
I get what he's saying. I get it, because like things are so bad over there, and inflation's continuing to rise, and no one's got any money, and they can't afford the cost of living and houses. And he's like, over here they're living like a better.
And their GDP is like in growth of 5% or something like
Russian
that, and there's no
economy's
inflation over
killing
there.
it. They got full employment.
Yeah.
They've got.
So who's
trade
doing
with
it right?
China and the BRICS alliance.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but he should be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon. Good on him. He's got courage and he's.
Oh yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
dissing the guy. I love what he's doing, and I wish more people would.
So
do
when you
it.
say be careful, what are you talking like? Get knocked off or something?
I just mean like I'm sure there's a lot of agencies out there that don't like what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm sure the CIA, FBI, whatever,
Yeah.
NSA aren't thrilled with all this coverage that he's giving Putin
Yeah.
because they want to paint him in a certain light, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
But why is America so fascinated with painting Russia and Putin in a negative light? Because what it appears to me is over the generations, or since World War II, Russia has always tried or attempted to be a partner of the West, or and work with the West. Obviously, have its own identity, but
Yes.
still work economically and politically with the West. But it always seems that America puts the wall up and says,
Yeah.
"Nah, fuck you, commies."
Different
You know?
ideals.
Yeah, we're democratic and
You're commies, we're
Yeah.
capitalists.
yeah, but they always seem to knock them back, and it just I don't understand
They
it.
seem to renege a fair bit, like based on that interview. Like you see the history of all the times that the Russians have tried to come to the table and make treaties or
Yeah.
pacts or agreements or whatever, and the US seem like they have reneged quite a bit.
Yeah, because I think Reagan had a big fucking renege on one sort of deal with Gorbachev or something like that fell through. So there's been
And like the NATO stuff with like not 1
Yeah.
inch further east, and they keep marching east and putting more missiles and more
exactly
countries and
it's
it's good to see it from both sides.
yeah, definitely. It's interesting. And then he was asked, "Would you invade Poland?" And he's like, why the fuck would I invade Poland?
Yeah.
What benefit is that going to do for me?
Yeah.
You know, he's not this cruel dictator that they've been painting out. He's obviously defending his country, defending a part of Ukraine that is predominantly Russian as well. That want to be Russian.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got
crazy
other
thing.
yeah, and then
ethnic Russians. They've been persecuted by the Ukrainians.
That's
the
right.
Ukrainians used to bomb them before the Russians went in and like, actively persecuted them. They were killing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a wild,
isn't it? So intricate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as Westerners we can't understand it in the same context that
We
they
can't, mate.
can.
Yeah.
Because they've been invaded a lot.
Yeah.
And they've got to think like that. No one's ever invaded America.
It makes us in Australia very simplified, doesn't it? Like
we're so lucky to live on an island continent, which is one whole country.
Yeah.
With only, obviously continent on Earth has that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy times.
And even the Greeks, I mean, they're quite insulated, aren't they? Like they're on their own.
Who?
The Americans, they're on the North American continent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, they share with Mexico and Canada, but.
Well, they share it. Maybe this is another topic: the US border crisis.
Oh my
they
God.
share it with a lot of the rest of the world now, skipping over there. Mate, I read somewhere an estimated 2.5 million encounters, they call them, at the border, at that border crisis. And in the first 28 days of December 2023, 235,000 illegal migrants have crossed the border, and it's expected 300,000. Because that was a report, before the end of December. The previous highest rate was in September last year of 270,000 migrants. So last December they expected more. Obviously, there's been recent news. So the way these migrants are coming in, they're crossing this area called the Darien Gap, and I've had a look at this Darien Gap on the map. It's basically this fucking thick rainforest of rivers and jungle and no roads, no nothing.
It's run by the cartels, obviously, or some criminal syndicate.
Yeah, you've got to cross it by foot only. There's no transport through it. In between the border of Panama and Colombia, and so these refugees are crossing through this area here. But there's also cartels flying people in from Asian countries, China, Vietnam, other countries, into Mexico City, and then they're crossing from Mexico across to the border as well. And these guys, I think, who's that guy that was just on Rogan just recently? He's a university lecturer, doctorate. He got banned from his university for speaking out.
Oh, Brett
Weinstein. He was just on there, and he and a group of other people have gone down to this Darien Gap and to these other areas in Mexico where people are crossing or coming from into the border. And he just reckons that the attitude of these people is not like, oh, we're so grateful, thank you for taking us, and we really want to try to get to America, and willing to speak to them. These people are angry and like, just fuck you, don't want to speak to you, and we just want to get to America and fuck you cunts and all this sort of shit. And he just reckons the attitude of them is not typical of a refugee.
No, yeah.
And so then he goes on to explain how. And you know how there's this theory that they're trying to dismantle the US. So last year they tried to take away their Second Amendment of gun ownership.
Yeah.
Then there's this talk of like civil conflict within America and martial law being infiltrated, right? So what they're talking about now is these illegal immigrants, getting to the US and being granted citizenship on the proviso that they join the military. So therefore, you've got a military that are going to be beholden to whatever government orders they get. So, because basically, when the COVID vaccine mandates came out, a lot of the US military bailed out. They quit.
Oh yeah.
So that has depleted the US personnel in some degree, but also their intake is less. They reckon a lot of woke sort of,
non-identifiers.
Yeah, sort of woke recruitment has taken hold, and a lot of people are sort of leaving because of those reasons. So if you've got illegal migrants coming in and they're given citizenship as long as they become part of the military, how easy could it be to use those military personnel, because they have to, otherwise their citizenship comes under sort of revoked, to then turn against real Americans. How fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like,
pretty wild.
you look at sort of because they've got the Texas National Guard down there.
Mm.
It seems like it's simmering to, I don't know, like a civil war, because you got the National Guard who are, you know, the federal government, and the Texas guys have got their own things. There's a couple other states do the same
They've got all
thing,
sorts of different shit, haven't they? Yeah.
and they've got their own rules and their own jurisdictions and laws,
Yeah.
and they're going in and we want to protect, and these guys are letting them in, and it's
Yeah. And can you just imagine then if the government says, okay, you guys can have American citizenship, you've got to go and fight those fuckers down there on the border, the US National Guard. You've got a civil war in your hands.
yeah,
And you've got a country imploding on itself.
yeah. But also the cities like New York and these other places have got these crazy laws that they can come and reside.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of
They're
hotels.
getting full healthcare and full...
Yeah.
They're getting a plane ticket and a couple of $1,000, I think, or something.
Yeah, they're getting a credit card.
What are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
my
they were
goodness.
going to, they've shut down some fancy hotels in New York. They've just taken them over and said, we can't house all these people, so they're going in there. So they've got these migrants living in, was it the Waldorf Hotel or something? You know, like
Right,
one of these
fancy one.
fancy ones, I don't know.
Wow.
That might be,
They
that
closed,
name
down
might be wrong.
they closed down that kid's school.
Yeah.
Kicked all the kids out of school to house all the illegal immigrants in one of the states.
So New York, I think San Francisco is another one that's in crisis, and that might be drug related.
Well, they're all democratic states, aren't they?
And LA, they're kind of getting an influx of all these immigrants that are causing a lot of housing issues. Yeah.
Do you guys reckon we're
Crazy.
seeing like the end of the US sort of global empire? Like you listen to Putin's interview going back to Tucker the other day, and the Russian economy, and they're doing that BRICS alliance now. So like Brazil, Russia, India, China,
Saudi
South
Arabia.
Africa. Now Saudi Arabia's in there, and they're talking about the balance of trade power, and that's a vast majority. The BRICS alliance is a vast majority of the world's trade. It's something like 2/3 of the world's trade will be done now through BRICS when that gets ratified, through whatever financial instrument that they. And then with Putin talking about like the amount of damage that the sanctions have done, that they're just not using US dollars anymore. So it's like, well, they sanctioned us, we can't use US dollars. Now we're trading more in yuan, we're trading more in rubles, we're trading more in lots of other things, and we're barely using any US currency. Seems to be hurting them more. And then going back to this border thing that you're talking about, and just wokeism and the ridiculous political situation they got over there. Like, are we seeing
Printing
like
more money,
printing more
hyper-
money? Like the national debt's
inflation
like
and-
31 trillion or 33.
Yeah.
It's something ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
are we starting to see, you know, all these wars everywhere that don't seem to be going so well? Is this like the slow
Yeah. Fall of an
implosion
empire.
Yeah.
of, because all empires start and finish. You know,
Yeah.
Britain was the best empire for a while, and
Yeah.
you know, the French and the Portuguese, and
Romans back in the day. it's
Right,
Like, yeah,
well, Romans were the
come and
most-
go. Yeah.
but they all end. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know.
Mate,
I
I
feel
just-
like we're
I just-
starting to see
They got a lot
I
of
know what
some
you're saying.
big cracks, some big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing
They
is,
can't
it's
fault
not happening internally. It's not happening by the American citizens. It's happening, I reckon,
No.
from an outside
Yeah.
infiltrator who's
Yeah.
infiltrated the present government,
Yeah.
and they're influencing it from outside.
I think they're doing a really good job of fucking shit up.
Yeah, well, they're dividing people, but I think at the end of the day, I reckon the Americans' patriotism and their love of their country will see them through it. I reckon they have to have a government policy where they retract all their tentacles from around the world and go back insular and start caring for their own country. And I think they're capable of doing that, but
And
they
that
just need a
brings us
leader.
back to RFK.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, if he gets in,
Or
He-
even Trumpy could do that. Trumpy,
I think
He
he was
never-
steadying the ship to a certain degree.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much.
He's
faith.
very anti-globalist and he's very anti-war.
Yeah.
He's
That's
more
true,
about
yeah.
internal manufacturing and stuff like that,
Yeah.
getting American economy
Yeah.
and people working.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good points. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
the biggest fan of Trump as I don't think he's just an amazing person who's just doing everything he does just for purely.
Oh, he's definitely
political
ego
reasons.
involved. Yeah.
Definitely a
100%.
narcissist. Yeah.
And I think RFK is a much better candidate, but I'll
Yeah.
certainly take Trump over Biden
Yeah.
or any
Yeah.
Democrat.
But wouldn't it be great if Trumpy then gets in and he says, "Oh look, RFK, can you come and be me
VP.
VP or
Yeah,
something like
there-
that?" You know.
He has
RFK
talked
would
about
say
that.
no,
I
though,
think
wouldn't
he.
he? Because I don't think RFK is ever going to put Republican next to his name.
Well, I think he would, mate.
Do you?
Well, he's left the Democratic Party.
He has,
He's boned them.
but
Yeah.
still identifies as a, what does he call himself? A liberal Democrat or something?
liberal, yeah.
Libertarian.
Yeah. But I think the whole sway of politics now over there has changed.
Yeah.
Like the left are now the Republicans.
It's a fucking zoo over there. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's bad.
Oh, sorry. The Democratic left are gone. They used to be the ones
Well,
protesting against wars, and you know.
the far factions of both the parties are extreme.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if
And
you're a
they're the
normal
ones-
person, you're probably a centrist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most people, I don't know,
Far right and
Would
far
be.
left are both a few tweaks away from
Yeah.
being completely
loopy.
normal. The far left, I think, is worse than the far right. But I think.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
say so.
Well,
I reckon.
far right.
Oh, look, the far-
You're looking
the
at
far
a
right
Nazi
is-
kind of scenario.
Yeah, well, far left, you're looking at Nazi stuff as well.
Well, yeah, maybe
Look
you're
at
right.
Russia's stance on trying to denazify like Ukraine and stuff.
Yeah.
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 I don't know. It's all very blurred now. Because the left is essentially like socialist, you know, almost communist sort of
Marxism.
think,
Yeah, yeah.
Marxism. So, yeah, it's so blurry.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have that in Australia yet, which is good.
Mm.
We've just got vanilla or vanilla. So,
Yeah.
like Labor, like Liberal, you're going to pretty much get the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Different talking head, but
I don't mind that Liberal leader, Peter. No, fuck, can't even remember his name.
Dutton.
Peter Dutton. I don't mind him. He's come out against a lot of policies.
Only
of the
now.
Albanese government.
The only now that
Albanese
they
has
don't.
been a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
dislike
Well,
it.
I reckon he's just a puppet, mate.
I've
He's
been a lifelong Labor. I've leaned towards Labor my whole life, but not anymore.
No.
They've lost me forever.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gone. I'm gone.
Yeah, they've lost me forever. They're too far left, mate. And
Way, way
I
too
think,
far.
I think they're infiltrated too. I reckon they
Yeah.
are. They're puppets, and they're being
Yeah.
controlled by.
Both of them are average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no one standing up during COVID.
No.
The Liberals are not saying anything.
No, it's all
Now they've got a chance to make some political points.
They stood up
chip
over the
away.
Voice.
Yeah, but that's past. That felt political too. That felt the ability for them to score points off Labor rather than them disagreeing with the Voice.
Yeah. I'll admit that they came out and disagreed with the Voice when they saw some good polls coming out
Oh,
against the
and then
Voice.
they
Yeah.
And
ramped
they
it
thought,
up.
oh, okay, we can
Hey
run with
guys,
this.
we can win with this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all political.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what politics do, you know. I mean, at least they did offer some resistance. And now they're offering resistance against a lot of this renewable energy bullshit that Chris Bowen coming up with, all these wind farms and solar farms. There was another thing that he came up against, I can't remember what it was, but he seems to be quite a leader in promoting the Liberal Party to retain its, what do you call it, its values of conservatism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And be a party that argues the other party. That's what a fucking opposition party is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not to fucking agree with them all the time.
That'd be
But going
nice.
away from America, what about the French and German farmers? Had a bit of a win with all those protests.
Yeah.
That's scary shit, man.
It's
Because if,
terrifying. Yeah.
People power.
I mean, Australian farmers here might not think it's, you know, we're not on the agenda, but they're trying to close down farms that have been held for family generations.
Yep.
And these higher elites, if they control the food supply, they control the people. That's a common saying. If you put these
yeah.
farmers out of work, you take over the land, you
Yep.
put your fucking fake food manufacturing process plant on there,
Yep.
you control what people eat or how much they eat.
What's for dinner tonight? Bugs.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, there's some cricket proteins and stuff being found in certain foods. There's a particular name. It's not like in the ingredients cricket protein. There's actually a name for it.
They do all that fuckery with like MSG's got like 200 different names. And,
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
go in there, oh, is
Sugars
MSG
have
here?
a
No,
different
well, there's
name.
maltodextrin and there's this and there's that.
Yeah.
And, oh, they're all.
And apparently, it can make you quite sick. This stuff.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not a pure protein or anything like that.
This comes back to this fucking World Health Organization pandemic treaty because their One Health initiative looks at human health, animal health, plant health, and climate. So I mean, they can come at that from any angle.
Mm.
Just be like, oh, you know, plant health or climate or whatever. We've got to start doing climate lockdowns because
Yeah.
you know this farming it's way too toxic. You're releasing too much, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
It's quite scary.
yeah,
And we're seeing it, like you say, we're seeing it in Europe, we're seeing it in Germany, we're seeing it in France, we're seeing it in the Netherlands.
Yep.
A lot of big agricultural countries. The Ukraine obviously was huge for grain production and stuff like that.
yeah,
But it definitely seems like they're coming after food production.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
global, our global population is growing. all the time,
Yeah.
like farmers are going to keep us fed. Well,
And farmers are smart dudes. They've been working the land for all their lives. They know how to adapt. You know, say there is a fertiliser tariff, or they have to minimise fertilisers or herbicides to some level. Farmers will always adapt and come up with
of course.
in new ways to do things. You know, or they're often leaders in that area. But you've got all
They
these
have to be
bureaucrats.
innovators, don't they?
That's
Because they're
right.
trying to turn a dollar,
Yeah.
and they're varying climate conditions and
Yeah.
varying economic conditions
Yeah.
and varying prices of crops and all that sort of stuff. So they're always pivoting, aren't they? So
Yeah.
they're quite,
And a lot of them
people.
going over to regenerative agriculture,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. So
Oh,
you'd
it's
think
really
you'd think that all your bureaucrats would be going, oh yeah, this is great, keep it going, guys. You know, this is what we want.
You would think so, or you'd let the free market decide and just let them. They're not going to put stuff into it that they don't need to.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
the free market. Make your word heard with your dollar. I reckon. I've been to Woolworths since Australia Day. I haven't set foot into Woolworths, and I've
Yeah.
cancelled my shopping with them.
Yep.
We've now gone getting our meat through a local meat provider in Gingin. Going to the local markets. Yep,
Yeah,
Gingin
very
beef.
good. Yep.
Yep. Getting my local fruit and veg from the markets.
Yeah, awesome.
And just deciding. And Woolworths is just a name because Australia Day, they banned all the Australia Day collateral stuff, or merchandise and stuff. But they're quite happy to promote the Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I just think, like, what business does a supermarket chain have weighing in on political debates? Let people decide.
Yeah.
Let people decide.
Yeah.
It'll be like them saying, "Oh, we support the Liberal Party. We're not going to have any late." It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, they're a fucking grocer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the answer to
Don't be political. Don't have a political arm. Just sell me groceries.
yeah. So your question is a good one. So why is there a political stance on a supermarket? So
Yeah.
obviously, who owns them? Obviously,
exactly.
BlackRock, your Vanguards, your all those sort of big bank companies are owning those
BlackRock.
markets, and they've got an agenda.
Yeah, they do. But it's just really sad that everything has to have an agenda these days.
But it's great though because it makes consumers like me and you and others
Yep.
go back to your small independent provider.
Yeah, well, we're more and more decentralising our shop. So
Yeah.
we're the same. So we use that Coral Coast beef
Oh yeah.
a fair bit, and we have used Gingin a bit, and then we've also sourced some organic beef suppliers. Got an organic lamb supplier. Yeah, quite a few different avenues now to get all our different food. We get all our dry goods from another place. We do like a co-op order.
Oh yeah.
Our lovely neighbour goes to the market every week and gets fresh food, and she picks up some for us, and we sort that all out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're rapidly moving away from the conventional
Yeah. And I think it's good.
supermarket chains because,
Yeah.
like you say, they don't do the right thing by farmers either.
No, they don't.
Like, they're paying farmers like a couple of bucks a kilo for lamb, and then you go and buy a lamb shank, it's $43 a kilo.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's ridiculous. Like, they do the same thing to the dairy farmers.
Yeah.
They're not nice.
No.
They're not helping with any cost of living.
Nothing.
They are.
No, they're
They are
absolutely
passing,
killing us.
and most companies are doing it.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
Everyone's increasing their price.
Yep.
Telstra did the same. They put up all their mobile plans. What cost of living is Telstra? What are they doing?
Yeah.
They're not producing. I don't know. They're not producing anything different. They're not paying more to get their produce in.
No.
I don't know.
And the quality, you've got to
everything is-
think about the quality of food that they're providing. The quality of fruit and veg in those supermarkets, they're often refrigerated for long times. They're not Australian.
Sprayed with chemicals.
Sprayed with chemicals. They're not
They-
organic.
They freeze them and unfreeze them. They
Artificially
use
ripened.
Yeah,
they
they
use
taste
the
like
chemical
shit.
to do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
Like you say, vote with your dollar.
Yeah.
Like if people want to buy an Australian flag for Australia Day and they're not selling it, well, you're going to get it elsewhere, and you're going to go, well,
Yep.
fuck you, Woolies, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
And mate, who knows? Because they're a duopoly and there's two of them, maybe they're too big to fail. I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe if enough people leave, they go, oh shit, that was a
Yeah.
bad move. Let's
those small
let's cut it
IGAs
out.
and stuff are very good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Got a good local IGA
Yeah.
or independent
Farmer
grocer.
Jack's.
Farmer Jack's,
Yeah.
or any sort of independent grocer. That's
Oh.
a good one.
They shut down down
I know. Yeah, they're gone to Lansdale.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wondered what was going in there.
Yeah, but there's one at North Beach. Might even be closer if you wanted to go there. But mate, I'm even looking now at, like, I go and buy a bottle of wine or some beers. I'm looking now at the bottle shop, and
Yep.
who owns it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm not going to
You don't
BWS
want Liquorland or your
anymore.
Celebrations or your BWS or
Well, your Celebrations is
Oh,
actually
Celebrations are
independent.
independent. Sorry,
Yeah.
Liquorland and BWS.
So there's actually like for alcohol like merchants, there's actually like an IGA, like food provider. There's
Yep.
actually like an independent group of alcohol merchants,
Yep.
and that's like your Bottle Mart, your Celebrations. I don't know if Camel was one.
Oh, yeah.
Thirsty Camel.
Thirsty Camel, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're all independently owned or like in a
Like a
consortium.
franchise, but yeah.
Yeah. So your dollar's not going to those big corporations.
Yeah,
It's good. Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all it takes is just a little bit of. I just googled who owns Bottle Mart,
Yeah.
independent thing, and it
Yep.
listed all these other independent
Yeah.
alcohol merchants.
Yep.
Mm.
I mean, that's the way to do it because that's the most probably influence you have is like you say, how you spend your dollar.
Yeah.
Because that's what really gets the attention of.
Yeah.
Of all these world events, we have no influence over.
Zero.
What we have influence over is
Not going to
locally.
influence what's happening in Palestine,
No.
Ukraine, US federal elections, but you can influence how corporations act
Definitely.
through
Yeah.
your spending power.
Because they're looking at their bottom lines. If they
Even things like banks.
yeah.
Like we've moved across to
we did
Bendigo
the
Bank,
Oh yeah.
just because they're independent.
Well,
They're
I've just
not-
done the same. I've moved
they're
to
not
police and
owned
nurses.
by
Yeah.
ANZ or Combank or any of the big
Isn't
ones.
that funny? Because we did the same. We've just gone through the process, and we're with Bank Australia,
Yeah.
completely
Hey, it was
independent.
refreshing. We actually went into the branch,
Yeah.
spoke to some real people,
Yeah.
set up accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get an interest rate from savings that was actually significant. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
it's not much, but it's
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
Well, I was with one of the four big major banks, and one of the bank I was with is one of the two that have agreed to be the first trialers of the central bank digital
Oh,
currency.
ANZ and Combank.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've just given them the bird. Just catch you later. I'm going to gradually deplete and close my accounts with them.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we've got our mortgages with them.
It's,
yeah.
You got to sort of
it's a process, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not an immediate thing where you can just
cut it off.
You got to,
Yeah.
as things come around, and
Yeah.
a lot of people have locked into like fixed rates or whatever, and you can't necessarily break those, but
Yeah.
you can certainly have it in your mind
Yeah.
to do it as things come up and as
Yeah.
the opportunity arises to,
Yeah.
to shop around. I would go so far as to say I would pay a slightly higher rate. Like if Combank said, "Oh, we're going to charge you, 4.8% on your mortgage," and had a more ethical one that said, "I will charge you, 0.1% extra," I'd be like, "Yeah, I can
Yeah.
go for that."
Yeah.
There'll
And
be limitations on that. It couldn't be like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
2% worse. Or
But that's
something.
an interesting
If it
point
was-
you make,
if it was
mate.
Close but comparable.
Yeah.
I'd say, well, yeah, of course.
It's an interesting point that you make because a lot of people that are voting with their dollar and going to more independent or non-corporate providers is they often say, "I'm quite happy to spend a little bit more."
Yep.
And I know we're fortunate in our lifestyles that we do have that income,
Yeah.
that we can do that. I know there are
Yeah.
people struggling
Yeah.
and they do have to look at every dollar, but most people will say, "I'm happy to pay a little bit more to
Yeah.
support an independent provider."
Well, interestingly, if you look at the prices and you go, "Oh, I can't go to an independent farmer because they charge more," that's bullshit.
It
They
is.
do not.
Yeah.
You look at prices of fruit. You look at prices of meat.
Yep.
You can almost get half price fruit from a farmer's market
Yep.
grower,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's way better quality.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not that they say no spray, but they haven't frozen it and refrozen it,
Yeah.
and you get it in the last
A lot
2
of
days
times
in
you
your
get spray
fridge.
free, or
Yeah.
sometimes they're not certified
And
organic,
it's-
but they'll say we don't spray.
Yeah,
Anything like that.
and they're
Yeah.
half price, $4 a kilo for apples when you're getting 8 and 9 down at Woolies
Yeah.
to last you 2 days when you put them in the fridge.
The
'Cause
apples that were harvested like 12 months ago,
Yeah.
kept in cold storage and
yeah.
Yeah.
So
under gas and all that sort of
yeah,
shit.
I
Yeah.
mean, I know
Waxed.
you kind of talk about we're in a good spot, but some people they don't look into it enough to go, shit, actually this is better off for me. It's better off for the farmer. It's better off for me money wise.
Yep.
It's maybe just a little bit inconvenient.
Yeah.
It's not a minute down the road at Woolies. You've got to seek out a farmer's market. Maybe it's on a Sunday or a Saturday.
That's the main thing. Is
It's
the
the only
convenience,
day.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But you just got to be a bit more
A
prepared.
bit more organised.
Yeah, a bit
well, the
more
markets
organised.
are open today. I've got to go there today, this afternoon, and get my fruit and veg.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my fruit and veg supply for the whole week is costing me about $50 to $60.
yeah.
Now, and I'm getting a shitload of fruit and veg.
Yeah, that's
and,
nice.
and it's good. And we're going back to now. Remember, I think we talked about this with our regenerative agricultural episode. We
Yeah.
talked about that farming. We're now coming back to closer to our own home.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
fruit and veg market that I go to in Wanneroo, The farm is just out past Gingin or out near Wanneroo.
Yeah.
That's where they farm all the vegetables. So I'm actually, my farmer is close to the buyer, me.
Yeah.
Whereas if I go to a full supermarket, the farmer is probably in another country.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
your
there's
lemons come from
transport
the US,
costs.
and your dates come from fucking Israel,
Yeah.
and whatever comes from.
And so if they want to talk about, CO2 emissions and that sort of crap,
Yeah.
and travel and
Yeah.
effective transport on the environment,
Yeah.
I'm actually doing a favour by just going down the road here to a locally produced farmer.
Even some of the farmers that are in Wanneroo, if they come down Sunday, they do the farmers market, but they have a shop front at their farm.
Yep.
So if you miss Sunday, you can then go Monday or Tuesday. They're maybe 5 kilometres further away than you can go to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's organic food co-ops in Perth where you can put it in an online order and they'll deliver it. We used to get organic fruit and veg delivered.
Yeah.
I thought it was almost half of $5 or something.
Yeah.
They'd give you a big box of, well, you could either choose exactly what you wanted or you could choose like a box.
Yeah.
And then there was a bit of everything. We
went to a co-op, just northern suburbs.
Yep.
That you'd pick it up, a few people,
Yeah.
you'd volunteer for a bit, you'd do, sort some stuff out.
Yep.
People would just come in, just drive through, pick it up, off you go. Yeah.
Co-ops are
Things
great.
out
It's forming community, isn't it? You're sort of
Absolutely.
usually like-minded people
Yeah.
who are a bit more
Yeah.
interested in where their dollar goes and what they're putting into their body and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
It's really good. You're fostering your own little community of people who are feeding themselves.
You made a good point there, mate, and that's pretty much what's driven my change in all these things. Is I want to know and have more control of where my dollar's going.
Yeah.
I've now become more particular about where I'm spending my money and who's getting it,
Yeah.
and where it's ending up.
Yeah.
And the making of communities is a good thing, and that's what human beings have always lived by, communities. And
I'm hoping 2024, that's what that's going to be about, is like people sort of waking up a bit more and being a bit more conscious of everything they do. That'd be a nice outcome for the year, wouldn't it? Like if we can all just become a bit more connected and a bit more awake.
Nice way to finish.
A bit more connected.
Or have we got more?
Oh well, hey, big news last week.
Ooh.
Apollo Creed.
Oh.
Carl Weathers died
Oh,
unexpectedly.
didn't even hear about that.
Didn't you?
I've got to start watching a bit more news.
Chubbs.
Rocky 2, Rocky 3.
Chubbs from Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Died.
Oh,
Yeah. Just
Jeez,
someone
how-
else that just died suddenly
How old was he?
in his early 70s. Fit as.
Was he?
Yeah. Yeah. Sad.
No good. Rest in peace, brother.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and then also just the Super Bowl. That's news. Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs won for the second year in a row.
Mr. Pfizer.
Yep. And then unfortunately a big shootout. There was a shootout yesterday.
Was there?
Yep. A gunman. They had their big sort of Super Bowl win launch. Massive crowd in this this part of Kansas City. And then a gunman went nuts. Someone tackled him down. Unfortunately, he killed a journalist or a sports reporter or someone like that.
Wow.
Yeah, no players were injured or anything like that, but there are multiple
Holy
injuries and one death so far. Yeah.
I didn't hear about that. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was just it only happened last
Thank
night.
God we don't have to put up with that shit in Australia.
Yeah.
School shootings and public shootings and stuff. It's crazy.
But on the gridiron, if you want a good series on Netflix,
Oh yeah.
it's awesome. It's called Quarterback. And
Okay.
it follows 3 quarterbacks in the year of the season 2022-23.
Real, like it's a documentary sort of thing.
Yeah,
or-
documentary, and it follows these 3 dudes. And so one is Patrick Mahomes from the Kansas City Chiefs, who just got MVP for that Super Bowl win the other day.
Have you seen? Sorry to interrupt. Have you seen the series Eastbound and Down?
No.
Oh,
No.
there's a guy called Kenny Powers. He's like a Brian. Is it Brian McBride? Danny McBride.
Right.
You'd know him. Anyway, look him up. They sound exactly the same.
Right.
Oh, I saw a little film clip of that.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
So Kenny Powers is
Yeah.
like a washed-up baseball guy, and he goes back to play a minor league in his hometown.
Yeah.
And he's just rough, he swears, and he's inappropriate. But Patrick Mahomes is this pin-up boy, choir boy, quarterback.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry
Yeah.
on. Sorry, I interrupted.
Anyway, so the other quarterbacks is the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins, which is and they're all these different personalities. So Mahomes is very out there, exuberant. He's very flashy and whatever. And Cousins is very sort of like studious and a bit more not withdrawn, but a bit more quieter, a bit more what's the word? Grounded, introverted, yeah, a little bit, yeah. And then you've got this Atlanta Falcons guy, Marcus Mariota, and he's a bit older, and it seems like he's coming to the end of his career and dealing with that. It's really interesting. It just gives you a new perspective of the game, because I didn't know quarterbacks were so vital in the game. They pretty much decide the game
as well.
Yep.
Oh, you should see these guys get hit.
Oh man,
they get pummeled, mate.
Those helmets do more damage than they do protection. Like, the fact they wear so much armour, I think actually makes it worse for them.
Yeah.
Like, those helmets
False
are
sense of
weapons.
security.
But they are just so vulnerable because they're in this throwing position, they're ready to throw, and so their whole body is open.
And they're zoned in on a target that might be 50 metres away.
So they might not even see a hit coming.
No, you don't even see it. You don't brace or anything. You're just trying to go through your throwing, and some big 300-pound behemoth just pummels you.
Comes through and nails
There's
you.
only so many times you can have that happen to you.
And you just hear it. It's like,
oh,
and you hear him go down, and he's like,
sound of helmets smashing together. And, oh, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's an interesting sport.
I might watch it.
Definitely
I
worth.
actually really like the NFL. I really enjoy a good game of NFL.
Yeah.
It's slow. Like, it's so bloody
It is.
slow.
It's like a game of chess.
Timeouts and stuff like, come on, there's 9 seconds left, let it run. But sometimes it comes down to that last play, and it's like, whoa, that was.
But I didn't know, like, say the attacking, say your side's attacking, your quarterback comes on, then he will go off when you're defending.
Yeah.
And so the other quarterback comes on.
Yeah,
and
so
so it's like
defensive and offensive teams and kickers and different coaches running different plays.
So
they got their playbooks. Yeah. Quarterback's got his thing that they dial up.
Mate, one of the episodes is called Mind Games on this series, and they talk about all the homework they have to do during the week in preparation for the game. So they've got to memorise the actual word of it. It could be like Snuffleupagus, big bird to the left, right. That's the name of the play. And then they've got to remember Snuffleupagus, big bird, and they've got to remember all the plays and who's involved in that play.
Wow, everyone's got to play their part and do the right thing.
Yeah, so you've got to remember the name of it, plus the actual movement involved.
Where the ball's going.
So they're smart dudes, they do a lot of homework.
Audibles, where things happen during the game, they just got to switch it up and go, okay, we're going something different.
Yeah.
And they're getting all those hits in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that brain condition's a big one over there. Yeah.
Well, that's another...
Because they use their heads like missiles.
Yeah. Oh, so bad. Yeah, real bad.
That's another interesting one.
I reckon most of them have TBIs before they come out of just college.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even high school.
Well, Aaron Hernandez is another... There's a big one where he went... I won't say crazy, but he killed a few people, and that was based on having brain injuries. And
cooked his brain.
Well, that one, Polly Farmer had that, didn't he?
Yeah.
He got that through AFL football.
I think they're very aware of it. It's probably worth the whole podcast itself, really. Yeah. But they're very aware of it over East. That movie Concussion that Will Smith was in was pretty much about it. He's I think he's an African fella that looked into it. Anyway, they've
is that a movie?
Concussion movie.
Oh right.
There's a full syndrome, and a lot of they kind of go a bit crazy.
They go nuts, don't they?
Yeah. And I think that'll come in the AFL soon. Yeah. Not whether they're all wearing helmets and whatnot, but
at least they've got those concussion rules and stuff now.
Yeah.
Do all the testing and stuff, which is good, and they give them a week's rest, don't they? And
12 days now, isn't it? So they're missing a game. Definitely missing a game if they're concussed. Which is a good thing.
It's good, I mean, come out of your career.
No.
What's a career going to be? Maybe 10 years. Yeah. Maybe less, maybe a bit more, but you don't want to cook your whole brain, do you?
No. Cook it.
Cook it. I think we've cooked it.
Oh, Dave's closing the book.
Ooh, it's close, I reckon.
Yeah. Good stuff.
How long have we been going for?
An hour and 14.
Oh yeah, that should bore enough people.
Yeah.
Long enough to bore people.
Yeah, if you made it to the end, good on you.
Well done. And we'll be back with some more.
Yeah, we'll tackle some good stuff this year.
Yeah, so what other topic we could look at that brain injury one?
Yeah.
Smitty, you mentioned earlier maybe looking at nicotine. You've been studying up on that.
Pretty interesting, mate. Yeah. Actually, nicotine has implications in TBI as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because I've been starting to do some research for this future podcast we're going to do, but seems to be quite beneficial for people with TBI. Yeah. Traumatic brain injury. But I think we'll talk about that next week if you guys are keen.
Yeah.
Some interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
It's tough to put your misconceptions about it aside, but if you can, with an open mind, have a listen.
All right, look forward to that. Wouldn't mind looking into peptides too. A few boys around my circles have been talking about peptides, and I've been delving into it a little bit. I've
Yep.
studied just to have a look
Yep.
at some certain types,
You
and
can still access those in Australia, can't you?
I don't know.
Pretty sure you can.
Can you?
Yep.
Loosely. Oh god, I don't know.
Loosely?
If it's, yeah, it's pretty hard work.
Is a mob
I
called...
think they're still illegal for individual use, aren't they?
Are
Yeah.
I think they say on their websites not for human consumption.
Oh, it'd be something like for laboratory study only or some bullshit, or
No,
you're
yes.
buying it for your pet hamster, or
Just
buying $500 worth of peptides because I want my little dog to feel really healthy.
Yeah.
making sure my
It's like
sausage
ivermectin,
goes
you're going to deworm your.
Yeah, exactly.
cows.
Oh, it's deworming my cattle.
Yeah. All right.
Alright,
That's good.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess RNA.
good stuff.